Well, in the UK, we're very excited by your idea of the emergent future. Could you say a bit more about what you mean by it, and also how you work with the emergent future in actual practice?
Yeah. First, I have to correct it. It's not my idea.
Okay.
Emergent future. No. Originally, I think it's an idea of Goethe.
Yes, I read that. Yeah.
And it might be an idea more within the anthroposophists.
Okay.
And Otto Chalmers from Theory U, he picked up that idea and brought it up. So it's really his credit to bring it up in the world. And I'm actually not sure if what his idea about emerging future is similar as my idea about emerging future. And it's still in development. So basically, when I try to explain it simply in organizations, I say there are at least two types of future. One is a type of future, what we plan, our ideas, our wishes, our perspective for the next year, 5 years, 10 years, or whatsoever. So it's a movement going from us into the future. And usually we create that future, it's always friendly. It's never terrible. Well, usually it's not terrible, at least not for ourselves. Emerging future, I see it's the future that is approaching us as a tsunami. It's the other way. It is a movement from coming from somewhere, approaching us, if we like it or not. And this emerging future both creates a prosperity and a crisis. It both brings war and peace. But we have no clue what it is. But we're sure that it will come. And what I find interesting is, where is this outgoing wave of planned future meeting this incoming wave of emerging future? And then the interesting question is, our goals in companies, for example, are they connected with the past? So when I was a young teacher, even a young and ambitious teacher, looking now with hindsight, I'm pretty sure when I was teaching, actually I was teaching what was relevant when I had the same age as the students I was teaching.
Sure.
So I was teaching from the past. Then can you teach from the here and now? That's something different. But much more interesting is the question, can you teach from the emerging future in the here and now? And how I work with it? Well, for example, in an electricity company, European electricity company where I worked, the most touching thing of the last year was after a lot of struggle, when suddenly the 40 directors there realized what we created as a mission statement, actually it's a bubble, it's a dream, it's an illusion. It's high time to wake up. So that was the first confronting message of a constellation. Hey, wake up. Reality is outside. Reality is not here in your mission statement. That's what the constellation clearly showed. But the next day, one of the board members was prepared, and I cut a long story short, was prepared in a small constellation to face the next technological crisis. He said, there will come a next technological crisis. We have no clue what it will be. And the most touching thing for me was that he was prepared at a certain point to face this next technological crisis and say, we welcome fully this next technological crisis. Meaning for me, he's prepared to welcome this emerging future, which might be completely different than their planned future. So working with this is working with a concept. It's also in constellations just bringing in elements representing this emerging future.
And setting up the difference between the planned, intended future and the emergent one.
Sure.
And working with the creative tension between the two.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. And also seeing, and with what are they connected in this team or in this...
Which future?
Yeah. And for me, very interesting, for example, was, and I'm really, there was other touching thing. I had just one afternoon with big school directors, many different school directors in the Netherlands.
Yes.
To my big astonishment, after also some introduction, they wanted to look at the question, the concept of education as we have now in our country, and we have already for 60 years, maybe a couple of 100 years, has this concept come to an end? So the emerging future also confronts you with the concept of things will end. And the interesting thing is, in family systems, we have the concept of, we all know we are going to die, or people are going to die. But we know very, very little, we have no clue, no ideas about family lines might end. We know it happens sometimes, but it's just not, ending is just not a concept. And in societies end all the time. Regimes end all the time. Companies might end all the time. So for me it's very interesting to connect with the tension of that something will end anyhow, and the creative force, what is still there before something is ending. Oh, okay. You're still with me?
Yes, I'm absolutely with you.
Okay, good. Is it still working for you, by the way? Okay.
Yes. No, that's been great. But I'd like to ask, because I love Otto Chalmers' books and his theory. Not everyone does, but behind the idea of what wants to happen, in Theory U, is the sense, as I read it, of something kind of benign and optimizing, even if it's bringing about the end of industries. I'm completely different from Otto. Okay.
You want me to hear something?
Yes,
or you want to have a question about it?
Yes. Well, first of all, do you see it? I see something benign and optimizing behind his idea of what wants to happen, but does your emergent future sound a little bit different?
Yeah, it does. And there I really have a different... One difference is, for me, change starts with agreeing with the world as it is. For Otto, change starts with disagreeing that the world is as it is. So for me, the world is okay as it is, anyhow, as a point of departure.
Yes.
And by the way, it has a lot of consequences when you see it this way, a lot. Also for how to work in companies. At this point, and now I have to be careful, because it was 2 years ago, I think, that Otto and I had a weekend of experimenting together, doing constellations together, having talks together. So he developed, I developed. So I have to be careful what I say about.
Yes.
So sorry, Otto, if I'm not right. What I see now a little bit is that Otto is trying to go, as his title of his last book, from a present state, ego-driven economy, to a desired state, an eco-driven economy.
Yes.
For me, that's in itself wonderful. I'm also an environmental activist, and we produce at this moment more energy and more electricity in this center and in my house than when we consume. But if you want to go to a more sustainable society, you have a goal. And it's a beautiful goal. But for me, it's something different than transformation. For me, transformation is the process that you somehow keep each other's hands, stand shoulder to shoulder. But you go into a process where you have no clue where you will end. And for me, that's the nature of emerging future. It's a scary, scary adventure. Because you have no clue where you will end. And for me, emerging future is saying yes to this process of going into a kind of adventure. And it might end in crisis, it might end in war. But as we know, crisis and war are beautiful methods, impulses to destabilize patterns. And I think that's the essence underneath. Patterns in organizations, they are extremely useful. Patterns in the financial system, they are extremely useful. They provide continuity, they provide stability, they provide predictability. The thing is, when at a certain moment society is changing and these patterns do not fit anymore, what is the impulse? And by the way, that's my big question in constellation work and in development work. What is the impulse that can destabilize these patterns in a sense that we can outgrow them or new patterns can form? And for me, the concept of emerging future could be something, if used well, so it's kind of allowing an impulse from outside, allowing crisis, allowing a certain form of chaos or whatever, so that the present patterns can destabilize.
And the organizations and the leadership can develop enough to move through the particular crisis.
Right. And yeah, and there I like more this question, not how do we can get rid of our patterns, but how can we outgrow our patterns?
Yes.
And and what I saw so far, is it okay that I continue?
Yes, I mean,
what I saw so far, one of the ways that you can outgrow patterns is to fully integrate them. And therefore, one of my underlying concepts is, it's not morality to say I'm okay with the world as it is, but it's a condition to really be okay with how things are now, to be able to outgrow patterns. And the more you want to get rid of patterns, well, everyone knows that, that's a good recipe that they continue, or in other forms they come back via the back door. So and these processes, and explaining them to leaders and to talk about these processes with leaders, that I found extremely interesting.
Okay.
I don't know if we answered your question, by the way.
Well, yes.
What was the question again?
Well, the difference between Otto Chalmers' view of what wants to happen and your own, and you're talking to, you're saying that in theory there's almost an unwillingness to see reality as it is, or that there's a desired solution built into it.
I'm very much a person of I'm so happy that Otto made this upper you, the dark side of the you.
Yes.
And I really like, I'm someone who likes that dark side and likes, systems want to be complete. So the more light you create, the more darkness there also will be. Yeah. That's what I saw so many times, and I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So I think it's interesting for leaders to embrace also the dark side in order to be able to outgrow it.
Sure.
So for that reason, when a system goes too much to the benign side, I will be, by nature, I don't know why, not by morality, but by nature, someone who embraces the dark side and not the way around.